Pivot tables let you analyze and summarize large data collections. That's great, it makes your job much easier, but it also means that if you print a pivot table, you might need to use more than one page. In this movie, I will show you how to repeat headers at the top and left of a pivot table so that your printout is easier to understand. I will use the print headers sample file, which you can find in the Chapter 7 folder of your exercise files archive. This pivot table is fairly large, and I would have to print it on more than one page. To show you what that looks like, I'll press Ctrl P to go to the print page of the Backstage view, and you can see that I have my first page here, and if I use my Control at the bottom, I can go to the next page, which is page 2, and you can see that the data continues, but I don't have any headers. So if I didn't have the department order memorized, I wouldn't know that the first column was balance, the second was dance, and so on, and click the previous page button to go back. What I'd like to do is to repeat the header row here, balance, dance, play, sport, and work, on the second page as well. To do that, I'll click the Go Back button, go back to the workbook, and then on the Page Layout tab, I'll click the Print Titles button. Doing so displays the Sheet tab of the Page Setup dialog box. What I want to do is identify rows to repeat at the top of each page. And in this case, as you can see in the background, those would be rows 3 and 4. To do that, I'll click in the Rows to Repeat at Top box, and then click the Collapse dialog button here on the right side of that box. And then I'll select the rows 3 and 4 by clicking their row headers and dragging down. And you can see that I have $3, $4 in the Page Setup box. And I'll click the Expand dialog control. And you can see that rows 3 and 4 appear in the Rows to Repeat at Top box. In this case, I don't have any columns that I need to repeat, so I can just go ahead and click OK. There's no obvious change in the body of the worksheet, but if I press Ctrl P to go back to the print page of the Backstage view, you can see that page 1 looks as it did before, but now when I use the Next Page control to go forward, you can see that my print titles have been repeated on the second page. That means that my pivot table data will be much easier to understand when I print it out. I don't have to remember the order of the columns because the labels are right there. Repeating titles at the top or the left of any printed page makes your data much easier to understand. If you need to print your pivot table on more than one page, I highly recommend you add titles to make the pivot table easier to read.